Hey, what's going on? We are back live. We're going to do part 3. I'm talking about the long run and ways to make it work in a sustainable way for pretty much as long as you want to keep doing long distance events, whether it be marathons, full Ironman, half Ironman even. So this kind of wraps it up, because the first one I was talking about kind of all the background of why I started not really enjoying or wanting to do long runs in general. It was a long period of time. It started to impede on recovery and being able to do and function just regular everyday life. It was just kind of, I always did it on a Sunday, and it's kind of when it best fit in the schedule, and just kind of sucked to wipe out a day of your weekend spitting it on there. So that was a little bit of background, and then my kind of aha moment was when I happened upon a podcast from Matt Dixon. He was talking to Jesse Thomas about his training. And while I'm not a professional triathlete, I think what they discussed is very applicable to even age group athletes. So it's something I've implemented in my training, and I've also used in athletes that are interested in trying that methodology, and that was to split up the long run to capping part of it to 2 hours, longest part, and then making up the rest later during the day. So I was going to talk a little bit about how I actually go about doing that, and we're going to use me as the guinea pig, just because it's easiest to talk about how I incorporate it in my schedule. So basically, I would break up the long run. So I took it, on max, the first part was 2 hours. Or any part of it, whether you want to do your, if you want to do the shorter part first and the longer part second, but at any point, any part of it is no longer than 2 hours. And then recovery, I would at least allow 3 to 4 hours in between runs. Sometimes maybe you don't have that situation where you can allow that much time, but at least an hour. 2, preferably 3 would be best. 4, great. So it serves a purpose of breaking up that long run, so it does not cause as much injury at one time that requires longer recovery. So it's kind of like the same idea with threshold sets. So if you're running at peak for 30 seconds, and then you take 2.5 minutes to recover, run again 30 seconds as hard as you can. It's the same kind of idea and principle. Is you're running at zone 2 for extended periods of time. Once you get to 2 hours, you're kind of doing more damage than good. So shut it down, do a recovery, and then go finish the rest of your run. So that was the key. Is the longest run component would be 2 hours. The other key is it's done on the same day. So if you can't do it on the same day, that does create a little bit of a difficulty. There are other ways to get around it. I've gone to breaking up a long run into 2 different days, maybe a 10 miler and then a 10 miler. That's kind of worked for some athletes to get them over the hump. But then that also allowed me to bring that long run, possibly do it on a Friday. So I would get up, a little bit earlier and try to knock out, 10, 12 miles or something like that. And then over lunch, try to knock over another 5 or 6. And then afterwards, in the evening, do another 2 or 3 miles. So the total for the day, I could run that up to 20, 21 miles, 22 miles. And then Saturday was a long bike ride, but I was not nearly as wiped out and physically exhausted as I would be if I just did it all at once. But I still get the volume in and still get that frequency. It's just broken up with the periods of recovery in there. So I've done that before in the past a few times when I was doing training for a spring marathon here in Kansas City, and I was doing a lot on the treadmill indoors. And I just kind of had to break it up just because at the time, that's all the time I could get it in, was doing 7 miles here and 6 miles here and 7 miles. It was just kind of hodgepodge, but I wasn't doing it with intention. But now with my long runs, I do it with intention. Like I said, usually in the morning I'm up to about 14, 15 miles, and then over lunch do another 6 or 7. So your longest peak run maybe is 21, 22 miles, and if you break it up, I've gotten to the point where sometimes I've done 26 miles at a peak, and really it doesn't do any more damage than doing a 20 mile or something like that. It's actually less impactful. Breaking that long run up allowed me to move it during the week, so then I also get some of the weekend back. That's awesome if you get part of Sunday back where you're not exhausted, you're not wiped out, and you didn't have to get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to do a 3-hour run. And then you can actually participate with your family or friends or do whatever. kind of relax on a Sunday. So maybe I'd switch out a run or swim or even part of a bike ride and switch it out to Sunday morning, a nice hour and a half on the trainer or something like that, or hour and a half bike ride, and then you're done for Sunday and you got the rest of the day. So it almost kind of move up my recovery day a little bit, and then Monday I could do a little bit more, kind of a bigger swim and maybe another bike or run. So it just opened up a whole new way of being able to kind of schedule my training, moving that long run from Sunday to Friday, but then breaking it up so I can do some right before work and not be totally wiped out, especially when I was in an office setting. When you run 15 miles in the morning and you go get ready and you drive to work, and if you're sitting in a chair all day, that's some nice recovery. You don't have to do anything. You're there at the chair, so you're sitting there and you recover. I mean, you have to pay attention to get up and move around every once in a while to make sure your legs don't, atrophy too much and you get up and you're all, humped over. But then to go out over lunch kind of loosens you back up, and it's always nice if you have opportunities. You've got a gym with a treadmill you can go to over lunch, or, I even got to a point I would go run around the office and then go in the bathroom and just kind of do a shower in the sink and go right back to work, kind of do what you have to make things work. But it allowed me so much flexibility to take that long run, break it into 2 chunks, and allowed me to move it on a Friday. So do some in the morning, some over lunch, or some even in the evening, and then do a long ride. Then you got a choice. You got some flexibility. If the weather sucks on Saturday, move your long ride to Sunday. If you got kids' activities going on, you got church on Sunday, do the long ride on Saturday. So it gives you flexibility in your schedule to move around the long work if you've got a way to move. Because you could do that with a long ride, but it's a little bit more difficult, and getting up early in the morning is not as it's not as feasible because it might be dark, it might be cooler to do a bike ride. So at least with a run, a little bit more flexibility. You can run when it's a little bit cooler, you can run possibly when it's raining, and it's not going to take nearly as much time as a long ride where you ride for 5 or 6 hours or something like that. So that allows you to move that long bike ride on the weekend wherever you need to when you got that opportunity to. So that kind of wraps up what I want to talk about as far as getting opportunities to kind of what I call the hack for the long run. So it's not necessarily doing it in a different way or anything. It's just breaking it apart. Like I said, the biggest part is 2 hours, and then you take the rest of that. So say you ran your 12 miles in 2 hours, and then you run 8 miles for another session or something like that. So just it depends on your speed and everything that you're working at. But like I said, usually I get about 16 miles in that 2 hour run, and then 5 or 6 miles. And like I said, this past Saturday, I did 15 on the treadmill, and then later it got warm enough, took the kids out, made them do some physical activity, ride their bikes and ride the rollerblades around for 6.5 miles around town. Worked out perfect, worked out great. Like I said, usually I do it on a Friday, so that way I've got more flexibility in my weekend schedule when everybody's home, when everybody's, we got stuff going on. Maybe right now not so much, with activities not really going on right now, but, things are going to come back. So there's going to be races again, there's going to be activities for family, there's going to be coordination of all this stuff. So the more tools you have in your toolbox to kind of take one of those long run workouts that just is so draining, and sometimes, like I said, I got to a point I just was not in the mood to do it, and it just made it hard to get out of bed, to roll out, to go do that and have any kind of enjoyment out of it whatsoever. So breaking it up, like I said, I've been doing this the past 2 or 3 years. I've gotten up to 50, 60 miles for the week. I've gotten no injuries. I've gotten, my recovery is so much better than it used to be doing it all at once. I'm not walking around like a severely injured person for a day or something like that. I'm not totally useless for an entire day. It's on a Friday. By the end of Friday, I'm pretty tired and ready for bed. But by Saturday morning, I'm able to get up and do my long rides or whenever I need to. So, again, I highly recommend, considering breaking up that long run to 2 sections, and then that gives you flexibility to kind of slide it around in different days and just different configurations of your training schedule. So that wraps it up. This is part 3. So maybe we'll come up with another idea. If you got questions or anything, we can do another little series or something like that. And as you can tell, I'm freezing right now. It's probably about 40 degrees in Kansas City. Looking for the days of warmer weather so we can get out there and do those longer runs and get out early in the morning when it's 50, 60 degrees already. by 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, because right now it is not, and it is way too chilly for this time of year. But hey, thanks for watching. If you got any questions, put them in the comments.